Guys, good evening. Will you turn with me to 2 Samuel chapter 19? We're going to jump right in. David has, at this point, he has had a rebellion led against him by his own son. If that break your heart, it gets worse. His son was then killed in this insurrection, and he's mourning the death of his son. As a result, he's now going back into Jerusalem, where he is going to be reestablished as the king. But there's pain and sorrow in the midst of it, and there are lessons to be learned. So why don't we turn to 2 Samuel chapter 19, and excuse me, if you will join me in a word of prayer. Father, we come to you because it's your word, and you promise us wisdom. So we ask you to help us to understand this word and apply it to our lives. May we never be the same after having read what's on these pages. We give you full authority in our lives to, Lord, change us and make us into the image of your Son, Jesus Christ, to check those recesses that we keep tight lid on and clean them out and make us more like you. And we give you all the praise in your holy name. Amen. We're going to begin at verse 9 of 2 Samuel chapter 19. Now all the people were in a dispute throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, "The king saved us from the hand of our enemies. He delivered us from the hand of the Philistines, and now he has fled from the land because of Absalom. But Absalom, whom we anointed over us, has died in battle. Now therefore, why do you say nothing about bringing back the king?" So King David sent to Zadok and Abiathar the priests, saying, "Speak to the elders of Judah, saying, why are you the last to bring the king back to his house, since the words of all Israel have come to my king to this very house? You are my brethren, and you are my bone and my flesh. Why then are you the last to bring back the king? And say to Amasa, are you not my bone and my flesh? God do so to me and more also, if you are not commander of the army before me continually in the place of Joab." So he swayed the hearts of all the men of Judah, just as the heart of one man, so that they sent this word to the king, "Return you and all your servants." Then the king returned and came to the Jordan, and Judah came to Gilgal to go and meet the king, to escort the king across the Jordan. And Shimei, the son of Gera, a Benjamite who was from Bahurim, hurried and came down from the men of Judah to meet King David. There were 1,000 men of Benjamin with him, and Ziba, the servant of the house of Saul, and his 15 sons and his 20 servants with him, and they went over the Jordan before the king. Then a ferry boat went across to carry over the king's household and do what he thought good. Stop there for just a moment before we're going to get to Shammai. We've been introduced to now half a dozen characters that if you followed along and you've been with us, you might get to know these men, but let's get caught up to speed. Zadok and Abiathar are priests that when they were loyal to King David, David had his son Absalom who stirred up the people and then led a revolt to kill his father David, remove him from being king, and take over the throne using a military coup. It was really a terrible, terrible event. Lots of people lost their lives, including David's son Absalom, which was terrible for David. And David's response to that was less than stellar. David's response was, he was at this point, just from an observation standpoint, he was unable to separate his grief from his responsibility. And that didn't go well for him, because the people that fought valiantly for him, they viewed him and said, you're making us feel bad. And we had to skulk in back to our homes as though we came in as though we were defeated and in shame. There was no shame in this. We fought valiantly, and the glory goes to the Lord for delivering the victory. And you, because your grief is overwhelming and you're the king, you're causing us to lose face and have shame, and it's terrible. So they're going to lose heart. It's also causing great confusion. Where there's no leadership, where there's no clarity at the man who's at the helm, the people are going, you've heard the phrase, nature abhors a vacuum. That means if you get any three men, humans, but let's take men because I understand boys on a playground. If you have three boys on a playground and one hill, it takes less than 10 minutes before they've determined who's going to be the king of the hill. They just do. Now, multiply that by years and add a sword, and now these same men are in the military, but they understand authority when there's leadership. When there's no leadership, if there's a leadership vacuum, men who are used to being able to follow instructions, know that there's order, require discipline, they start looking around and they say, if he is unfit for command, then what is the next level of command? And they start looking for that, to fill that spot and that gap. That's why God says, the responsibilities you have a responsibility to maintain. This is not something you can do part-time or sometimes. All the way up to, because this is probably the highest level, parenting. You don't get to part-time it. You don't get to just say, I don't feel like it today. No, you don't get to do that. You must do those things. That's what we're required to. So if you can imagine every other area of responsibility, now you're the king and commander of the military. You do not get to just absent yourself and just say, I'll get around to it whenever I feel like it. No, you have to maintain the order, maintain the discipline, continue to, even if it means you have the ability to say, right now, I am incapable. I leave this one in charge. Trust it. That's why we have people that you can get to assist you. People that can come in and handle things so that if anything bad happened, the work still continues. I pastor this church, Calvary Chapel of Hamilton. But this church, Calvary Chapel of Hamilton, it's a body of Christ. It doesn't belong to me, it belongs to him. If something happened to me, there are men that already know, grab a Bible, come sit up here and teach. Do not miss the opportunity. If you're going to mourn and grieve for a minute, fine, I get it. If you're going to help me, that's great. I appreciate that. But the work of the ministry has to continue. And there are people that are willing and capable to do that. And that's the way it should be. And it should be in every area. But could you imagine if you were the king, how much more important it is to already have a plan in place so that when you are, it's your own son who's led the rebellion, you've now had to give the order to attack him, please go gently with him, but then you find out he dies. I can't imagine the emotional confusion going on in your brain. but you can't just turn everything sideways. But he gets it straightened out, or he's trying to. Now, the better thing is to not let it get off the rails in the first place. But if it does go off the rails, listen to the good counsel around you. And he had a counselor that came to him and was able to speak truth into his life, maybe a little harshly, but spoke truth into his life. And said to him, if you don't, I'm going to use my words, if you don't straighten up, if you don't get back into your position of leadership, your military, they're going to go home. They're going to leave. You may have the ones that are mandated to be, but everybody else that came to help and support, you're going to lose them, and they're going to go back home. So what are you going to do? So he goes down to the gates, which means he's now conducting business. And they said, oh, good, the king's here. And now he is going to reaffirm everything will be fine. God is still in charge. God has not gone anywhere. Everything will be okay. And he will now use political means to encourage people, because the battle is not something he wanted, but people have fought, and they've chosen sides, and some have chosen against him. And now he has decisions to make. How am I going to deal with them? He has his loyal priests, Abiathar and Zadok, and he says to them, the nation of Israel is not very large geographically. It's roughly the same size as New Jersey, but about the southern half you could call Judah. In fact, maybe the lower third you could call Judah, and the northern half, or northern portion, is typically called Israel. They divide. You're going to find the 10 tribes in the north don't always get along with the 2 tribes being Judah and Benjamin in the south. So they get along when they want, and they divide when they want. And there's always an issue between them. There's tension. A generation later, there's going to be a civil war. So if you've read ahead, you know that's coming. But right now, there's some tension. The tribe of Benjamin was the tribe that Saul came from. Saul was the first king. He failed. God removed him from being king. But yet, because he died in battle and his sons were killed, but there's still some alive, there are people that said the crown rightly belongs to him, and the tribe of Judah, which is where David is from, has no right to it, even though God anointed David king, because that's not the way it's done. So they want their family, the Benjamites, the tribe of Benjamin, to be the exalted tribe, even though they were completely rejected and God rejected Saul. They still want what they want. The 10 northern tribes, they knew that David moved the kingdom, and this is going to become important, from up in the north in a place called Hebron. He moved it from that region down to Jerusalem, closer to his hometown, which we look at Jerusalem and say that's the obvious capital. It's the place where David built the temple. It's the place where Abraham offered the sacrifice of his son Isaac. So it has this great historical significance. So he moved it there. But you move the capital, it's a big deal. And if you move it from where we are to where they are, and you already have some animosity, you're making a statement. But God wanted to make this statement. It's not us and them, it's us. And when the nation of Israel has infighting, the enemy laughs. The enemy loves it, because they'll just kill each other. We don't even have to bother them, because they'll fight over non-issues. Where do you want the capital to be? Does it matter? Jesus isn't on the throne yet anyway. When he's on the throne, he'll sit where he wants to, and he says he's going to sit in Jerusalem. So why not prepare Jerusalem? But until that day, Jerusalem's not my capital, because my king isn't on the throne. So does it really matter to me? Why are we fighting over these issues? But we fight, and the enemy loves conflict. And when he can stir up conflict, he wins, and then people get hurt. And what gets hurt first and greatest is the testimony of the Christian. They don't even get along with each other. And that's a problem. As much as is possible, as much as you can, get along with one another. They will know that you are Christians by your love for one another. I know it's a bumper sticker, but people more generally know what the church is against than who we're for. When the reality is we should love one another. Love the Lord your God with your heart, soul, and mind. Love your neighbor as yourself. And David is really putting that into practice. And I give him a lot of credit. Because what he has done is he took these two men, Zadok and Abiathar, and he says, please go and tell Judah, that's the region in the southern third, that's his family tribe, you guys got to get it together. Because the tribes in the north, from Israel, they're the ones that are coming and saying, you should be king. That Absalom fella, he was a usurper. The problem is that they had supported Absalom, but Absalom lost. So now they're coming and saying, look, we just want to support the one that is going to win. And we thought it was going to be him, so now we're fully behind you. But David goes to his own family tribes, and he says, are you going to be the last ones to acknowledge that I'm the rightful king? But they have a problem. The problem is that even though those in the north got behind his son Absalom in the rebellion, in this coup, in this uprising, so did the people of Judah down in the south. His own people turned against him. And when they turned against him, now they're saying, for you guys over there, this is something that you don't have to necessarily live with. If he's your king here, then you're going back home. This is home to me. I live here in this area. These are my people. He knows I sided with Absalom. He knows I refused to give him help when he was fleeing and running for his life. He knows I did nothing when his own son Absalom came into the palace and took his wives up on the roof of the palace, set up a tent and went into his wives, fully disgracing them, ruining them for the rest of their lives. I did nothing. And that's a problem. Because those up in the north get to pull the, well, I would never have done anything like that. I wouldn't have let that happen. But when your own people do that, they now have to face it. And David is going to them. And he is the more gracious than I could imagine. He goes to them and he says, tell them, aren't you my family? Aren't you my flesh and bone? We have a lot to do. Let's put the past in the past and let's work together to move forward. Decisions were made. My son is lost. Whatever, whomever, however, you sided with the decision-making process, we still have a mission. And the mission is the nation of Israel needs to be a light that shines in the midst of darkness. The nations that surround Israel hate Israel. Nothing has changed in 2,700 years. And Israel is the light to the world. Abraham is called the one through whom all nations will be blessed, through his seed. So the descendants of Israel are going to be important, eventually the Messiah. So David knows the great privilege that they have, and he's now, through his inaction and missteps, he has brought a black eye to God, starting with Bathsheba and the rebellion that follows. But now, through the grace of God, he wants to restore and move forward with the mission. God has not abandoned him. God has forgiven him and said, do the job that I've anointed you to do. So he's back in to do that job. But it says here in verse 11, go say to the elders of Judah, go find the influential people, the ones that are going to move and stir the hearts of the people, and then say to them, verse 13, say to Amasa, are you not my bone and my flesh? That's David's nephew. But he's also the commanding general of Absalom, David's rebellious son, his commanding general of the army of the rebellion. And David says, send word to Amasa, you're my nephew. Bad decision was made, but this is what I'm offering you. God do so to me and more also, if you are not commander of the army before me continually in place of Joab. My general Joab, You're his replacement. Some have said that it's a little ambiguous whether he's removing Joab and putting Amasa as the highest military commander, or whether he is going to be the successor to Joab should something happen to Joab. Either way, it's to those who had just fought against this rebel leader, it's crazy saying, look, I know you were just trying to kill me and my family, and you were there when all these atrocities happened, but let me make you commander of my army, because that's the peaceful thing to do. I don't understand why he's doing it, but he offered it. When he offered it, there are going to be consequences for it, because Joab's not going to be happy with it. But he offers it because he knows it's the way to peace. Let's have peace. The king returned, verse 15, came to the Jordan River, and Judah came to Gilgal to go and meet the king, to escort him across the Jordan. Shimei, the son of Gera, who was from Bahram, hurried and came down to meet the men of Judah with the king. Shimei, go down here to verse 18. After the ferry boat comes across to carry the king's household, Shimei, the son of Gera, fell down before the king when he crossed over, and he said, don't let my lord impute iniquity to me. Remember what wrong your servant did on the day that my lord the king left Jerusalem, that the king should take it to heart. Don't take it to heart what I said. What is it he said? He said, you're a usurper. God's paying you back because of all the terrible things you did. He started throwing stones at the king, King David. He threw dirt and mud on him, said terrible things that you just can't take back. And David's, one of his commanders, Abishai, said, look, David, let me just go and kill him. I'll cut his head off. It'll take me a minute. I'll be right back. And David said, no, if the Lord wants him to rebuke me, then let him rebuke me. Well, now David is victorious in battle. This very same man that was there throwing rocks when David went out, he's not loaded up with rocks this time. Now he's coming in with his hat in his hand, and he says, those things that I said, please don't take them to heart. That may be a phrase that you've heard before. It's biblical. Please don't take that to heart. But how can you not take it to heart? It was meant to pierce you right to your heart. But he's asking, please don't punish me for what I said. It's terrible. For you know that I have sinned, therefore here I am, the first to come today of all the house of Joseph, to go down to meet my lord the king. So he's now saying that I am the first of those who are of the greatest of the tribes. Joseph is the son that had the greatest accolades. There's a great adventure that he went through in his life, but his father Jacob, when he blessed Joseph, the blessing of Joseph, how strong he is and how strong his family is going to be, is beyond compare to the other brothers. And here this man is saying, but I represent the strongest of your allies now, so you should keep that in mind. But Abishai, verse 21, the son of Zeruiah, answered and said, shall not Shimei be put to death for this, because he cursed the Lord's anointed? You didn't let me cut his head off the last time. My sword's still sharp. It'll take me a minute. It'll all be over with. Do you really want to tolerate this? What's David's answer? David said, what have I to do with you, you sons of Zeruiah, that you should be adversaries to me today? He's now harsh with Abishai. What are you trying to do? We're trying to make peace. We're trying to make nice. This man came here with an apology. Yeah, but aren't there consequences? Well, there will be. I assure you, consequences are going to happen to this Shimei. But right now, David is saying this is not a day for death. There's been enough death. This is a day for the nation to heal. You want to talk about a big man, a guy that has, I mean, he's a warrior. David's a good warrior, and he's not weak. He really just wants best for the nation of Israel, even if it means his ego has to be put in check. I think he got on his face before the Lord, and you see in some of the Psalms as he's been crying out to God, I think he realized that his emotions have driven him, and he has been led by his emotions to make some bad decisions and to be incapable of making decisions, and he hindered and caused much of the problem because of his actions, inactions. So he's now saying, I need to get all of my emotions under control. And instead of saying, I'm hurt, or my feelings are hurt, or now is my time to exact vengeance, he's now starting to say, what is absolutely best for the nation of Israel? You want a good leader? That's a good leader. When it says it's not about me, it's about them. And they're hurting people. I may have had my share in it and caused it, but I have now the privilege, still being in the seat of authority. How am I going to manage this authority? And if I don't exercise grace and mercy, then how can I ask it of my Lord God? Big respect for that. Shall any man be put to death today in Israel? For I don't know that today, for do I not know that today I am king over Israel? David is saying, everyone now knows I'm the king of Israel. Is cutting this man, cutting his head off, is that going to do anything but stir up more bad feelings? How about this? How about we just give him grace? Now, David, by the way, he's going to keep an eye on him. And when his son Solomon, as you read ahead, you get to see all these men. They're still part of the kingdom. They're men of authority. His son Solomon, when he takes over the throne, David says to Solomon, when you see this man, you have to keep an eye on him because he's already led an insurrection. Your brother Absalom led a revolt. And this guy Shammai, he was there with rocks and stones. He was happy to be there on his team. And he would have brought the full weight of the people whom he supports, the tribe of Joseph and the people in the north. He would have brought the full weight of that behind Absalom to crush and kill me and you, Solomon. He would have killed you, your mom, everybody that looks like you. He would have wiped you all out in a minute. So you're going to have to keep an eye on him. And he's going to keep an eye on him. And by the way, spoiler, Shammai is going to cross a line, and Solomon is going to have to put him to death. Because that rebellious streak, I just don't understand it. Maybe I do, and that's a problem. Now, Mephibosheth, verse 24, another character we have been introduced to. He is the grandson of Saul. He's the son of Jonathan. And David and Jonathan were very close friends. David was serving King Saul, but King Saul was removed and rejected by God. And God put David in place of King Saul as king. And Jonathan and Saul were killed in battle. Many of King Saul's sons died in battle. They feared that when David took over the throne, he was going to kill all of the rest of the kids. So somebody grabbed a child named Mephibosheth and drug him and stumbled and fell, and he is now crippled. And as a result, he has now been blessed by David, who wants to do good things for Jonathan because he doesn't hold any ill feeling toward him, wants to bless Mephibosheth, brought Mephibosheth into the palace to sit there and be blessed every day of his life. But when the rebellion happened, Mephibosheth's servant, whom you're going to meet in a minute, Ziba, man, you can't make this stuff up. You don't need after-school soap operas. You just need Christians and pay attention to what's going on, and their lives get so convoluted. You just want to say, the answer is, love the Lord your God with your heart, soul, and mind. Love your neighbors yourself. Stop living in a Peyton place. Stop trying to gain some kind of advantage. Stop trying to put somebody down so you look better. I mean, these are what they're all doing. Stop trying to gain an advantage by aligning yourself with this one, and we're going to get together and we're going to form a team and we're going to vote them off the island. What in the world? That's what the world does. We're not supposed to be like the world. We're supposed to be different and unique. We're supposed to be able to take it on the chin, to be strong enough to not be so easily offended. Let the world have the snowflakes. We need to be strong and mighty, full armor of God business, equipped for the work of the ministry. We need to grow into maturity. This is who we are. And if somebody says something that you don't like, Matthew 18 says it's your responsibility to go to them to restore the relationship. I don't want to do that. I'm going to send it down the prayer chain. I just want you to know, pray for brother so-and-so because, I think he's struggling in this area. It kind of hurt me, but, No, stop it. If you got something with brother so-and-so, call brother so-and-so. Now, if he shuts you down, take the next step. But at least give it a shot. If you send it down the gossip chain, shame on you. And shame on the person that receives that gossip with tickled ears. So what do? We keep a very short account with offenses with our brothers, work it out, because we're working together. And we're going to spend eternity together. Do we want to not get along for a little while down here? What are you going to do when you get to heaven? Turn a blind eye, walk down another aisle like you're in the shop, right? No. We're going to actually love one another there. So why not start here? Well, this Mephibosheth his servant lied to David and said, Mephibosheth has sided with Absalom, your enemy, and I'm just his servant. I'm just doing what he told me to do. I'm bringing you some figs and some supplies for your journey. So King David gave everything that was Mephibosheth's, everything that was of the household of Saul, vast amounts of fields and livestock, and turned it all over to Ziba and gave it to him. And now, when he comes back in, there's Mephibosheth coming to meet him. And I wonder what David is thinking. You, after I loved you, you turned on me. But now he meets Mephibosheth. And Mephibosheth, the son of Saul, came down to meet the king, and he had not cared for his feet, nor trimmed his mustache, nor washed his clothes, from the day the king departed until the day he returned in peace. So it's easy if guy has not bathed or washed in a long time, he's making a statement. And his statement is this: I'm unable to flee. I can't run away. But I wanted you to know that I'm letting everybody know. Absalom, the new regime, anybody who sits there in the palace knows that I'm in mourning and grieving because the man whom I support is not here on the throne. And I want the world to know, and I'm making it obvious. So you can carry this just a little bit in your daily lifestyle when you start to say, how are we acting in the world when our man, the king, is not on his throne yet? Are we living a life that is clear and obvious to the people around us? Pastor, you're telling us not to shave or bathe until the Lord comes back? No. I'm saying that you can do these things that are unique to a believer. You can pray. You can be in the Word. You can be strong and of good courage when you're facing the same difficulties that the world is facing. You can be one that goes out of your way to love your neighbor and esteem him higher. You want to stick out like a sore thumb? He's sticking out like a sore thumb. You want to stick out like a sore thumb? Be nice. Be courteous. Don't return evil for evil. There are 100 ways where you can be a blessing throughout your day, and watch what will happen. And when you let your light shine before men, that they see your good works, they'll glorify your Father in heaven. But there are way too many Christians in the world that you can't tell whether they're believers or not, where you would have no way of knowing. Maybe you could ask them, but even if you ask them, they might not tell you because they don't want to be divisive. I have shared this. My own father, whom I love dearly, was a great man, the best dad in the whole world. Rarely, if ever, went to any church, read his Bible every day, tithed to the church. Didn't go, but tithed. But I asked him one day, as his son, I asked him, are you born again? Are you saved? And he looked at his own son and said, that's between me and the Lord. I don't discuss religion or politics. Well, I don't care if on the job site you don't discuss politics or religion, but I'm your son. And Deuteronomy 6 says that as a father, it's your responsibility to take your children by the hand, and when you go out of your house, you talk to them about the things of God. When you come back into your house, you talk to them about the things of God. When you're walking in the way, you talk to them about the things of God. We don't get to just say, I don't discuss it. You're a parent. Remember that you don't get to just abdicate. You're responsible. That's a responsibility. Where am I going? Sorry. Lost it for a sec. Mustache. So how do you live a life that is an example of a believer? So that, yes, your family knows where you stand. Yes, your friends know where you stand. Yes, the world knows, because when bad things happen, when the terrible strikes, they need to know who to run to. They need to know who they can count on when the horrific happens. And if they don't know, or if they think that you're all in the same category as they don't look to you for help or hope. And you have both if you know Jesus Christ. Well, this man Mephibosheth is trying to make that statement. And he answered, verse 26, "My lord, O king, my servant deceived me. For your servant said, I will saddle a donkey for myself, that I may ride on it, go to the king, because your servant is lame. And he slandered your servant to my lord the king, but my lord the king is like the angel of God. Do whatever is good in your eyes. For all my father's house were but dead men before you, the king, and all these things. Therefore, what right, verse 28, do I have? In verse 29, the king said to him, why do you speak any more of your matters? I have said, you and Ziba divide the land. So he then says, and some have said, what he did is each get half? Or does he just now say, I'm restoring it to the way it was, which means it's your land, and Ziba gets to farm it for you? Either way, he gave him back credit, half credit, most credit. It's difficult to determine by the verbiage here. I don't know that he fully believed him or didn't, but he wanted to do what was right. I personally, this is my personal opinion, which means you should discount it and erase it from your mind. I believe he said, what is the compromise thing to do? It's a lot of land. Just split it in half. I think that wisdom is transferred to his son Solomon when one of the first events is a woman who had a problem with her child who had died. And when the child died, another woman replaced that baby with live baby and said, no, your child is the one that died, not my child. And Solomon said, well, this is the answer. When the two women were disputing over the child, he said, fine. Cut the child in half, and each of you get half. And then one woman said, no, let her have the baby. And that's when he said, that's the mother, because that's the heart of a mother. Well, I think that you're going to see David here say, look, just right now, we'll split it. And the king said to him, why do you speak anymore? And then because of verse 30, Mephibosheth, say that 3 times fast. Mephibosheth said to the king, rather let him take it all, inasmuch as my lord the king has come back in peace to his own house. He can have it. I don't want the stuff. I'm like, that's at least a sentence that should be said. He could have said, thank you, Lord, I appreciate what you've done. But he didn't. He said, I don't even want it. I'm happy that you're here. So remember the example that you see in Mephibosheth, a man who had no ability of his own to come and sit at the king's table is invited to come at the king's table. So you see that invitation to come, even though he has no right to it. Yet the king bids him come to eat at the table. So when you see all those in the Bible, those analogies to come and dine, the master's calling, we used to sing that song, come and dine at the seat of the king, at where he prepares the table for you in the presence of your enemies. All of those he demonstrates in Mephibosheth. And then he takes this man Mephibosheth, and this Mephibosheth is not happy until the king is on his rightful throne. And then when the king returns, now he's happy and he's satisfied. And the king offers him worldly goods. He said, I don't want any worldly goods. You are sufficient. I love that about this. So Mephibosheth says to him, let him have it all. Barzillai the Gileadite came down from Rogelim. He's a guy you're going to meet in heaven. So I like this man. Barzillai the Gileadite came down from Rogelim and went across the Jordan with the king to escort him across the Jordan. Barzillai was a very aged man, 80 years old, and he had provided the king with supplies when he stayed in Mahanaim, for he was a very rich man. And the king said to Barzillai, come across with me, and I will provide for you while you're with me in Jerusalem. But Barzillai said to the king, how long have I to live that I should go up with the king to Jerusalem? I'm today 80 years old. Can I discern between good and bad? Can your servant taste what I eat or what I drink? Can I hear any longer the voice of singing men and women? Why then should your servant be a further burden to my lord the king? Your servant will go a little way across the Jordan with the king. And why should the king repay me with such a reward? Please let your servant turn back again, that I may die in my own city near the grave of my father and mother. But here is your servant, Chimham. Let him cross over with my lord the king, and do for him what seems good to you. And the king answered Chimham. So if you're looking for baby names, there are a couple of them in here. Shall cross over with me, and I will do for him what seems good to you. Now, whatever you request of me, I will do it for you. And all the people went over the Jordan. And when the king had crossed over, the king kissed Barzillai and blessed him, and he returned to his own place. The king went on to Gilgal, and Chimham went on with him, and all the people of Judah escorted the king, and also half the people of Israel. Before we get another conflict, let's just look at this breather God gives David. I got a little bit of conflict here. Oh, what am I going to do with this guy? He was the rebelling general. I got to deal with him. And then what else do I have to deal with? You know what's... let's put it in a way we can understand it. We've been blessed by the Lord, and we allowed complacency or arrogance or bad decision-making, something to cloud our judgment, and we've made some decisions that we regret. We come to our senses, we get on our knees, we go to the throne of grace where we find not only mercy and grace, but we find restoration and forgiveness. And then we come back and we have to pick up pieces that we've broken along the way, and we have to start repairing relationships, and we have to start repairing and rebuilding. And it's hard. And every time it happens in our lives, and the older you get, you look back and you say, if I would only have done that or learned this lesson back when I was a much younger man, I wouldn't repeat it. But then you find yourself repeating it, and then you beat yourself up for repeating it, and then you do it again, and you really beat yourself up because you really know better, because you know what happens. It's not easy to rebuild. It's not easy to rebuild relationships. It's not easy to restore. It's never easy to say, I'm sorry. It's never easy to say, I'm sorry, and be forgiven. And then when you're forgiven, regain the trust and the confidence. Because trust it's easily broken, and then it's difficult to rebuild. And your heart might be 100% right. David's heart is 100% right. Lord, I have sinned. I don't want to do it again. But if you look at his track record, and you've read ahead, he's going to sin again. And people are going to get hurt again. So it's hard to trust. But he's an example of the flawed human. Here we are in life, just trying to navigate through, living a life that is an example of Jesus Christ, because as we're given the great privilege, Christ in you is the hope of glory. You're the Christ representation in the world. His ambassador is representative. And if not to the world at large, the world in which you influence, your coworkers know what you're like. They know your character. Your family knows what you're like. They know your character. They probably know what shows you watch, how you drive your car, how you treat your dog. They know a lot about you. And what they need to know is that even in the midst of trying, you fail. And people get hurt. And hearts get broken. And relationships need to be restored. And you don't get the dog pile-on of God, but that doesn't keep people in the world from piling on. And when they see you in that condition, maybe not the first time, maybe not even the second time, but the I told you so is always at the ready. However many arrows they have in their quiver, that I told you so arrow is like whoosh, right here. And they're like, should I or shouldn't I? No, I'll be the better man. And it's hard because you deserve it. But it's not their position to do it. And you're praying that they'll be good or better men too when you're asking for forgiveness. and you're rebuilding relationships. So you're really, really refreshed when you have a friend like a Barzillai. And he's not throwing stones at you, and he's not calling you names, and he's not pulling out the I told you so. He's saying, you look like you're hungry and hurting. Let me give you some food and some rest. If everybody else feels whatever they feel, I'm your friend. And if you have a Barzillai, man, you are a blessed guy. But how about this? How about we strive to be a Barzillai? It's nice to have one, but how many people in your life could benefit from you being one? I want nothing for myself. I didn't do it because I wanted an advantage. I didn't do it because I wanted the king's ear. I did it because you were hurting and I could help. So I helped. And the king comes back in when he has an opportunity to doubly bless him and says, I want to bless you. And he said, my life is good. I was in a position to help you, so I helped you. If you want to do something nice, here's somebody who could use you doing something nice for them. We don't know who Chimlam is. It doesn't say, this is my son, go make him your grand vizier. No. But he said, if you want to do something nice, you find somebody that can benefit from it. Because as for me, I have found contentment. I have found peace. I have found my joy. Maybe he found that at least before he passed, he found this contentment and this great joy. I pray that we find that and we become that and we're known for that. And how wouldn't it be nice if our family, friend circle, our sphere of influence all viewed us that way, and instead of saying, oh, Shammai's coming, man, glad I have my armor on because he's always got something snarky to say. He's either going to throw a stone or he's going to say something that is going to be hurtful. He's going to throw some mud, cast some shade, whatever the term of art is this year. He's going to do something to just dig. And it's not like he has to make stuff up. I mean, look, we're flawed. Accusers, when they just get to know us well enough, they know our flaws. And they can easily cut us down. But our friends don't. Not that they can't, but they don't. But if you're looking around and you see a Shammai coming in, it sucks all the energy out. Oh, man. Shammai's here. And then when a Barzillai walks in the door, you go, wow, man. Whew, like a breath of fresh air. It is good to see you, my friend. And Barzillai is that guy, and God gives him the Barzillai before this event. It says, just then, verse 41, all the men of Israel came to the king and said to the king, why have our brethren, the men of Judah, stolen you away and brought the king, his household, and all David's men with him across the Jordan? So all the men of Judah answered the men of Israel, because the king is a close relative of ours. Why then are you angry over this matter? Have we ever eaten at the king's expense, or has he given us any gift? And the men of Israel answered the men of Judah and said, we have 10 shares in the kingdom, therefore we have more right to David than you. Why then do you despise us? Were we not the first to advise bringing back our king? Yes, we were also the first to side with Absalom, but we forget that because that's not correct at the moment. So we can change our stance anytime the winds happen to go in a different direction. Yet the words of the men of Judah were fiercer than the words of the men of Israel. David did not need a defender. David didn't want a defender. God rebukes Judah, the tribes that are the closest, because the hypocrisy in Israel is nauseating. The people that were closest to him that did nothing feel bad, and their guilt is causing them to get defensive. Not one of them is saying, we're sorry, Lord, forgive us. David, forgive us. They're like, I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know how we're going to work this out. And they go to their political allies and they try to get their clout and their committees, and they form together and like, this is how we'll be okay. And then they eventually get to the place like, all right, as long as we stick together, we'll be fine. And then the people from the north come in, the 10 tribes referred to as Israel, and they come in and they say, we sent our ambassador first. We beat you to the punch. And you haven't even invited us to the parade. Not only should there be this wonderful parade, but we should be prominent in the parade. He owes us. We have a right to him. There are 10 tribes compared to your 2. If it weren't for us, you wouldn't even exist. You need me. You've probably heard these people come to committee meetings throughout your life. You need me. I don't have, I won't share life experience, it's painful. The reality is that you don't have to be like that. And the tribe of Judah didn't have to be vicious toward their brother. This wasn't a time for attacks. This wasn't a time for tension. This would have been a time to say, brothers, we're brothers. Hey, I didn't mean to slight you. Please, take the seat in front of me. Here, you want a banner? Take it and stand there. Here, a float with your name on it, right there in the front. Stand there. We'll give you a horse, decorated. Go out in front. Because it's not about me and it's not about you. It's not even about the king. It's about our God who has restored order and peace to the nation of Israel. So let the enemies around us be put to shame. Let's not us fight to see which one of us is the better man or the bigger man, who got here first, or who's owed more. Why the infighting? Because I've seen church division. I've seen churches divide over carpet. I've seen churches split over an organ. I was in Pennsylvania visiting a friend who was pastoring a church. And we walked into the church. And as we walked into the church, that pastor friend said hello to people, waving to them who are going to the church that meets across the street. And I said, that's interesting, you have a church across the street. Well, we used to all worship together, but there was a fight because the organ committee wanted to have the pipe organ fixed, but we didn't have an organist to play it. So we didn't want to spend several $1,000s to fix an organ that we couldn't play. And they were offended by that, so they left the church and started a church across the street. I said, did you give them the organ? No, you can't take the organ. It's built into the church. I said, so what do? They're an organless church over across the street who made their point, and everybody in town mocks them. And they wave and some glare, and it's like, really? I walked into a church for a choir concert. And when I walked into the church, a couple asked me and my wife, please come sit over here with us. Okay. This is the half of the church that wants the pastor to stay. That half of the church want the pastor to leave. There's going to be a business meeting, and whomever has the most votes is going to be able to make the decision. As a pastor gets up to preach to a group of people who are sitting in rows saying, I want you gone. And the enemy laughs. And we, the body of Christ, we can look at that with tears. We can look at that with disdain. But it happens all over the world. And we need to be better than that. And we get to be bigger than that. Because the issues that typically cause the rifts are carpet and organs and things that brothers should be able to get past. Why? Why do we allow it? Let the nations rage. Let the heathens rage. Don't let the believers fight each other. We're supposed to esteem each other better than ourselves. We're supposed to look, the people of Judah should look at the tribes that traveled a distance to come down to Jerusalem and be Brazili's, whatever the plural of Brazili. They should be like him. Brother, I'm glad to see you. I'm so glad you're here. Can I water your horse? And if they did that, can you imagine the reaction of the people getting down off of their horses? Would there be the conflict or the contest? Would there be but people strive. Remember, it's one of the tools of the enemy. Conflict, strife. He loves it. And that's why God hates it. I hate discord among, do you know what discord? Discord is not as big a rift as you may think. And God hates discord among the brethren. It's just one who's kind of singing out of tune. We have the same book. We should be able to agree. When one sows seeds of discord, God hates it because he knows where it's leading. And the enemy is going to gain a foothold and people are going to get hurt. And when people are hurt, what you find is that they don't want to go to church. And church should be the place where hurting people should want to go. This should be the place where people say, I'm hurting. Where do I go? Come to church. This is where you're going to find comfort. This is where you're going to find help. This is where you're going to find Barzilis, people that are looking to you to say, how can I be a blessing to you? They'll pray for you and pray with you and encourage you. That's the work of the ministry. And it's for us to be able to look around this room tonight and say, there may be people here that I don't know or I don't know well. How about tonight we take the next 6 minutes, I'm going to close in prayer, and we get to know those people who we don't know very well and just introduce ourselves. Yes, I know it's uncomfortable. It's okay. We'll get through it. I promise. Father, we come to you. We thank you for all that you are. Bless us, O Lord. Thank you for the great examples we have in your word. We praise you and want to bring you all the glory. So, Father, help us to lay down put our fists down. Help us to engage with humility and with love. Help us to be strong enough and courageous enough to go and offer comfort to those whom we can. And Lord, if we feel slighted or if there's something we need to work out, then help us to go to our brother and get it squared away. And we give you the praise in your holy name. Amen. Bless you guys. Read ahead, much more good stuff. Make a friend or deepen a friendship.